Okay, छोटा क्या?
We'll be waiting for another 1 minute and then we'll start.
Okay, right.
Want
Sit
to,
here.
want
What?
to reduce the
Maybe.
just one no, I need to very niche.
Very well. Yes, it-
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to put this here? You want space where
Book.
is पीछे कर दूं क्या?
हाँ, मेरी voice. हाँ. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Hey, we're already live on YouTube.
Yes, we are. No, we are not. Yeah, we are live on YouTube. Yes.
Oh my God. We're on the YouTube. Yeah. go
Yes,
ahead.
ma'am.
Oh my
We'll
God.
start when we touch 125, 150. Then
How
we'll
many
start.
participants registered last?
853.
This is registration. The live are different. The ones who see it on YouTube.
They are different. Yes, ma'am. Not all participants.
They don't come.
They won't be in the Zoom, but they can watch it live on YouTube. But they won't be able to ask questions in this hand.
Acha.
We have 115 as of now. At 125, I guess we should start, or we should wait. It's 5-1. We should wait for, I guess, 1 or 2
Yeah, I
minutes.
think of 800 registrations. You can wait for some more, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Actually, people have lunch, then they're lazy.
No, that's just you.
And that's a week. It's a week-long event, no, ma'am? So sometimes the participants are interested in only a certain topic. For a corporate lawyer, white-collar crimes is intriguing. Some are civil lawyers, so they are interested in only civil disputes. They are not interested in crime. So this is how they register and join the webinars accordingly.
Okay.
The 120 at 125 we'll start. 121.
I feel I'm on a news channel where I'm going to be by Divyansh.
No, nothing, ma'am. Everything's fine here.
Yes. I'll have to think, did I make the legislation on domestic violence? Women.
It's 5. You're going to kindly text in the groups that we are live. Yes.
I'm going to go.
Participants, do not give your attendance in the chat box. That's only meant for the questions. We are already witnessing and seeing that you have attended the webinar. So kindly don't mention your names in here.
That'll be nice.
And you're going to enable the chat for the questions. We are 125 now. And with your permission, can we start?
Yeah. I think we should. 7:50.
Greetings to all. Briefcased is a digital study platform providing case briefs with judgments, legal news, and legal study material. It specializes in reliable case briefs, which are kept precise with the essence of judgments to provide our users with the best information. And accordingly, learning made efficient is our motto. After organizing successful webinars and panel discussions in the past, we at Briefcased are back with our series of webinars, which include a wide range of topics to impart legal knowledge on fundamentals of law. Our topic for the seventh webinar is crime against women with special reference to the Domestic Violence Act. In today's session, we are going to discuss what are these crimes and the need for understanding them in the present context. As per the seventh speaker, we are delighted to have learned Professor Dr. Manjula Batra, who's a legal luminary in the true sense and with achievements beyond excellence. She is the former Dean of Jamia Millia Islamia and SGT University. Recently, ma'am has also been nominated as a member of the core group of the National Human Rights Commission, New Delhi. It's an honor to have you today with us, ma'am.
Thank you.
And coming on to our first question, which is indeed the topic of today's webinar. And for that, to give an idea to the audience, I would request you to give a brief history or a background of crime against women. What are these crimes and where can these crimes take place?
This is a very vast topic, Divyansh. And before I start my, giving my input on this, I'd like to wish everybody here a very, very good afternoon or good evening. It depends whether you've just got up from your sleep or you've been awake since 2 o'clock and you've had your lunch. And it's a pleasure to be on this forum. And Divyansh was very nice, to invite me. And he said, ma'am, you must come. And, I've been giving so many webinars that one feels, my God, I'm back to the university giving webinars every day. But then it's a challenge and it's fun to be with students again. Now, what are crimes against women? Crimes against women, one you would find under the Indian Penal Code, okay? And those kind of crimes may be specific to women, or also not specific to women. And there'd be specific legislations only concerning women. Now, why do crimes against women occur so much? There is a background to it. You all are aware that the status of women has never been very good in our country. If you go back into the ancient times, if you go back to the Vedic period, post-Vedic period, you come to the Mughal period, then you come to the British period, and then to the, the time when we had the freedom movement, and finally post-independent India. Now, the women as such were always oppressed and dominated, okay? And when we talk about power, the power was always with the males, and it flew from the karta of the family, karta meaning the head of the family, and the head of the family was always a man. And because of that origin or source, today we can say that it is basically unequal power relations between men and women, which determine the status of women in the Indian society. It is not only in our country alone, it is across the globe. So what I would like to define it as the patriarchal mindset, which has been transferred into unequal power relations between men and women. And that is why these are the basic reasons why crimes are continuously being committed against women. There have been laws. There were laws even during the British period. Many laws were enacted during that time, and to protect women. But even post-independent, India, there were a lot of amendments made to the Indian Penal Code, Indian Evidence Act, Criminal Procedure Code, so that there would be some respite given to women in different ways. Now, when you look at the Constitution of India, the Constitution of India gives equality to everybody, even transgender today. Okay, when we talk about men, women, transgender, everybody is equal. The doctrine of equality is actually the bedrock, we can say, of the Constitution of India. And any government that is ruling cannot deviate from it. But what is required is a manifestation of the doctrine of equality in actions and policies prepared by the government for the upliftment of women. Now, law alone cannot help, okay? So when we define crimes under the Indian Penal Code, we talk about kidnapping, abduction, rape, dowry death, abetment of suicide, molestation, wrongful confinement, grievous hurt, okay, and many others, okay? Now, specific offenses, even under the Indian Penal Code, after the Justice Verma Committee made recommendations, after the famous, or infamous, we can say, Nirbhaya Delhi gang rape case, there were some specific sections added to the Indian Penal Code, like voyeurism, acid attack, stalking, sexual harassment, and rape laws were also changed over a period of time. But we have still seen every day crimes are being continuously reported against women and young girls. You've heard about the Unnao incident, how finally the girl was killed. You know about the Kathua gang rape case. Why is this happening even after the Nirbhaya deadly gang rape case? And then we had the Hyderabad case also, where a young vet was gang raped. Now, why is this happening? Again, we have to question the mindset of the people. The law is there. The enforcement is missing. The role of the police becomes very important here. The investigation should take place fast. When we look at the crime records, the National Crime Records Bureau, the statistics given, we see that many cases are still under trial, and many cases are not also they do not even see the logical conclusion. Many women also become hostile later on because there's a lot of humiliation, downgrading of women when they're investigated. Even if protection is given to them under the Indian Evidence Act, under the Criminal Procedure Code, still we find that during cross-examination, though the proceedings are to be held in camera, where rapes are committed against, women, series of rape being committed, you've seen over the years, still she feels very humiliated, and maybe she just withdraws at times because she doesn't want to live a life of humiliation. When a rape is committed on a woman, whether it is by a stranger or by a family person or by a known person, or it's gang rape, it's actually killing her soul. Okay, it is traumatizing her, and it is very difficult to get over it. So a lot of support must come not only through law, but all these investigating agencies that are there. And support has to come from the NGOs, the service providers, and the society at large. Of course, not ruling out support coming from the state government or the central government, as the case may be. Now, when we look at specific crimes relating to women or gender-specific legislations, which have been enacted under Article 15, subclause 3 of the Constitution of India, you're all aware about the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act, okay? Then you have the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act. Then you have the Prohibition of Sati Act. Like Sati was being glorified till very recently, okay? And, if I recall, I was probably doing my PhD in Delhi University and also working in Jamia when there was one woman in Rajasthan. She was just 18 years old, and she was actually mesmerized and hypnotized into jumping into the funeral pyre of a husband who was much older than her, and he had died. So you understand that after that, the need to bring in legislation was felt, and that is why we had it. So all these things are coming under crimes, whether it's, sati, an act of sati, or sexual harassment at workplace, or otherwise. Now, when we talk about female feticide, female infanticide, we also see a grim picture where female feticide is concerned. You know about Haryana, you've heard about Delhi, you've heard about the state of Punjab. I mean, in the state of Haryana, you'll be shocked to know that the number of girls and women is much low today. The boys over there can't find marriageable age girls anymore, okay? Because they are in short supply, I'll say. They are not existing, and they have to go to other state to find girls or women. So this again speaks about the attitude of the males, attitude of the patriarchal mindset of the society for preference for a son, because the scriptures say, when we talk about Hindu scriptures or other religious scriptures, that a son, gives that kind of relief to the parents when the parents die, and the son has to carry forward the name of the family. So all these requirements or religious requirements or religious diktat, I will say, or religious norms or social norms have to be overcome to bring a change in the mindset. It is happening gradually, and it's heartening to see students, especially students of your age, or my daughter, who've been born in the 90s and 2000, things like that, that they think differently. And the boys also think differently. And it's heartening to see that the boys come in and help the girls, because when we fight for rights of girls or of women, we cannot fight alone. We want the men and the boys to be with us. Okay, so crimes against women, that is why they are continuously increasing. There are many factors. Okay, for example, if I take the dowry problem, the greed for dowry, the harassment for dowry is still continuing. Why is it happening? To some extent, I'll say maybe the parents are to also blame of the girl, because they give dowry, even though the Dowry Prohibition Act forbids the giving and taking of dowry. But then they are also pressurized by the society. They think because we give, our daughter will be happy, our daughter will be looked after. This consumerism or materialism which has entered the mindset is damaging relationships, is damaging the bonding which should be there between families, between the boy and the girl, between the in-laws, between the parents and the children. This is what needs to be looked at again. Sensitization programs have to be arranged every now and then for every section of the society, not only in schools, universities, but also I feel amongst the common people, they should be made aware of the laws. And every legislation has this provision. And also it is the duty of the government, be it state or the center, to disseminate information about the legislation in different ways, either through the print media or through the electronic media or through other means. So if I, yes, Divyansh?
Yes, ma'am.
You want me to continue?
Yes, ma'am, sure, go on.
Okay. Now, since I said that I would be referring to the Domestic Violence Act, I would like to speak about this legislation. Incidentally, I'll share with you that I did my PhD on crimes against women within the family. Okay, so I took up issues like wife beating, marital rape, dowry death, and of course, domestic violence bill was to come at that time. I did my PhD in 2004, and at that time, the bill had come on the Domestic Violence Act, which became an act later on. And I did a critical study of the bill. I remember in detail, and it is there in my thesis also. Now, wife beating cuts across all classes, all religious creeds, sect, minorities, majorities across the globe, whether you're affluent, whether you're poor. It's a very sad state of affairs. This wife beating is considered to be a social norm. It is accepted since time immemorial. So unless somebody breaks it, it'll continue. You look at the religious scriptures, you look at Manusmriti, there also it has been mentioned that a wife has to be kept in control. Whether you talk about Christianity, there also the scriptures will say that a wife must be kept under the man's thumb. So this, feeling in the mind, and with this mindset, obviously, we have grown up with the feeling that women are not given freedom to grow or to develop in any way. So wife beating is a problem today. Now, considering that domestic violence cuts across all caste and creeds, and there was a section called Section 498A under IPC, which deals with cruelty, mental cruelty, and physical cruelty for married women. It had been brought into the statute book, I feel somewhere around 1983 to 1986. Now, this was because a number of married women were being subjected to bride burning, dowry death, okay, and being beaten up for dowry demands. So the legislature felt, there was a need for a section. But for many, many years, it was felt that Section 498A, though it was a weapon in the hands of women, which is there even today, but it was breaking marital relationships. Okay, it was breaking marriages. So once a woman complained under Section 498A of the Indian Penal Code, it was no going back, as far as she could never go back to her matrimonial home. Her husband would never accept her. Her in-laws would never accept her. As it is said in our society, कि इसने हमारी नाक काट दी है ना? ये नाक का सवाल है, इज्जत का सवाल है. So the marriages failed. So here, this is where a woman, even if she was being subjected to violence or cruelty, she did not want to go and report, okay, the matter under Section 498A, unless it became very serious, okay? Now, students, there was a lot of movement in our country, and India had signed CEDAW, the Convention on the Elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. It's an international convention. We had ratified it. Plus, we had ratified other UN charters also on human rights. So India was obliged to come out with a legislation on domestic violence. For many, many years, the women rights activists and women NGOs were fighting for this legislation. And along with NCW, Lawyers Collective, and other NGOs also, this bill was prepared and given to the parliament. Now, the parliament sat on it for a very long time because the mindset in our country was like this, that nobody wanted to interfere in the private domain. Okay, they did not interfere in the family. They didn't want to interfere in the family because they felt if there is cruelty, if there is wife beating. It's a personal matter. The couple or the family should sort it out themselves. But it was wrong because it was increasing and women were really being tortured. And finally, we had this legislation in force in the year 2006. Of course, it was enacted in 2005. But then the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act came into force in 2006. Now, this particular piece of legislation is actually a civil remedy. It's not a criminal remedy like you get under Section 498A. Okay, so a civil remedy means that if a woman wants to make a petition or an application under this particular legislation, her home will not break. Okay, because what will happen is that the magistrate concerned will take in the application and make out a case in case there is domestic violence committed against the women, and then issue a protection order, which has been requested by the aggrieved party. And that protection order would direct the husband or the in-laws, if the in-laws are also involved, not to commit violence against the aggrieved party. So that is why I say it's civil in nature. So the man, the husband, does not go to jail. In case of Section 498A, the man used to go to jail. You understand? This is the difference. The difference. Now he will not go to jail. The in-laws will also not go to jail. And the matter will be decided amicably, if possible, within the family. And if it is not going to be decided, then yes, the couple can move towards a divorce. But at least the woman is given shelter. So I just go to the Act and tell you the salient features of the Act. The domestic violence, as is defined under the Act, includes physical abuse, emotional abuse, economic abuse, it is then sexual abuse and mental abuse. Okay. Now, sexual abuse would cover marital rape cases also. Marital rape to date is not an offense in our country. So a woman who is married and being subjected to marital rape has no remedy in law except going for divorce under cruelty. Or she can take a protection order under the Domestic Violence Act today. All right? Mm-hmm. Physical abuse will cover all kinds of abuses which could be there under IPC, like criminal intimidation, using criminal force, punching, kicking, pushing the woman against the wall, beating her in the stomach, throwing her down the staircase, neglecting her, taunting her, or in any way pulling her hair, throwing property at her, damaging her property. All these things would be included under physical abuse. Now, emotional abuse or verbal abuse would govern situations like where, a woman is being taunted for not producing a child, if she's unable to produce a child, or a woman can be taunted for, say that, oh, you're fat, or you're ugly, or you're dark, okay? Oh, you can't give me a son, you're only giving me daughters, okay? These kind of things. Or you've not made delicious food today. You're not worthy of making delicious food. You're useless, okay? You're worthy of nothing. Breaking her confidence completely, taunting her, using foul language. Verbal abuse and emotional abuse, you can say it is kind of same abuse, same form of abuse, yes. Now, economic abuse, which govern everything that she has an interest in, apart from denying her maintenance. For example, the husband might just stop giving her money that she's used to for even running the house for her or for her children. Okay, he might just say that I won't give money for your children, or I will not give money to buy the basic necessities of life. Okay, food, clothing, or also give money that she's used to living in a particular manner, meaning the standard of living. So all this would come under economic abuse. And also, in case the woman is earning, she's working, okay, he'll take away the salary, okay, and maybe give her 500 rupees or 1,000 rupees and say that this is your pocket money for the rest of the month and you have to make do with it. She can't buy anything of her own choice. She can't exercise her own, feeling of going somewhere with the friends or eating somewhere out or buying something herself for the children or for herself. So this is also coming under economic abuse. Apart from this, where economic abuse would also cover situations where, the husband might not give her istri then, okay, might take it away, or might just alienate her property, even if she's where she has an interest in, okay, or a joint bank account, take away all the money and not give it to her. So these things would all come under economic abuse, all right? Now, there are a number of orders given under the Domestic Violence Act. One is protection order. Second is monetary relief order. Third is residence order. Fourth is compensation order. Fifth is custody order. Okay. Now, when there is violence committed against a married woman, this particular legislation is gender-specific students, and the aggrieved party can complain, or anybody on behalf of the aggrieved party. It can be a friend, it can be a neighbor, it can be a police officer, it can be a service provider, or anybody. And it is the duty of the magistrate to note down the complaint. And if the woman who is aggrieved says that domestic violence has been committed against me, the magistrate has to believe, okay? It is all in favor of the woman. Now, the protection order can be very conditional. There is a provision for the state to notify the number of protection officers that would be available in a particular district. And usually, they're all women. They have to be qualified, maybe in social work, or have some knowledge about, being sensitive towards women's issues. And the salary also will be prescribed by the government, and the tenure, everything is prescribed by them. That is procedure. Now, the protection order will direct the protection officer to make a report of the violence that has been committed against the women, and the report would be given to the magistrate, and the magistrate would act accordingly. And it is the duty of the magistrate to take action. Now, when the protection order says that the husband should be removed from the place where the woman is, because according to the act, the woman, the married woman, or other women also, I'll just come to that later, has a right of residence in the house, okay? This particular piece of legislation is unique because the woman cannot be thrown on the streets as was earlier done, okay? When proceedings of divorce or anything were initiated against women, she had to leave her husband's matrimonial home. But now she continues to stay there because she has a right to shelter. And now she's got a statutory right. We call it a statutory right. We call it a statutory right because it is sanctioned by the legislation. So if at all the unit is small, when I talk about residence, it can be a small residence, it can be a big residence. If it's a big residence, maybe it is possible that the aggrieved woman can be kept in a portion of that house, and she can run a kitchen for herself, and the man and the woman may not come in contact with each other because they are warring partners at the moment, okay? Or if the house is small, then the man can be requested to leave the house and live outside. Or if this is not possible, then the man has to put the woman in a rented accommodation and pay for the rent of the house also, and give maintenance that he was giving earlier so that the woman can survive for herself and the children. Now, what happens is that it has been before I go further, there could also be issue of custody of children, okay? According to the Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act and other legislations, the natural guardian is the father. But when violence is committed against woman, then the temporary custody of the children is given to the woman till it is finally decided, okay? But the visitation rights can be given, or how the father is going to meet the children also can be included in the protection order and the custody order. But where the court feels that it is not proper for the husband or the father to meet the children because he's been so violent and he can be very negative about his wife to the children, that the magistrate might just say that, okay, the husband or the father is not allowed to meet the children. Now, the custody order can also take care of the children when they're going to school, so that the husband does not stop the children from going to school, okay? Stop the children from going to school, or stop the children in between and harass them, or harass the wife, if she's working, stop her on the way or trouble her through electronic media or in some other way, abuse her or her relatives, her parents, her siblings, her brothers, in any way torture her or take the money from her account, if it's a joint account. So the custody order, protection order, or monetary relief order can contain all these conditions where the magistrate can say, okay, all these bank details, the bank accounts are sealed till permission is sought from the magistrate to use them by the husband. Again, to see that the woman is secure. Because if the man takes away all the money, again, the woman will be left high and dry. So these orders are in her favor so that she feels secure, she and her children. Now, then we come to...
Can we entertain a question of a participant? Someone has asked a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned about female feticide and the disproportionate sex ratio in Haryana, Punjab, and the northern states of India. So a person has asked that it is believed by many people that the people who tend to commit rape are the people who tend to fulfill their sexual frustration or for sexual satisfaction. One of the ways to put this to an end is to legalize prostitution in India like Western countries. Do you feel that is a remedy?
Look, I don't think I will agree with this because again, rape, when a man rapes a woman, it's aggression, agreed, okay? But this aggression comes out of unequal power relations. He wants to show that he's dominating basically, okay? And woman is suppressed. So he wants to show that. He wants to show his, that power of a man, the muscle power, that he can do it. And a woman is inferior. So I would not say that it is so much of sexual frustration. It could be, one of the reasons could be, but in rape, how much of sexual satisfaction can he get? Tell me, in one instance. How much? Isn't it? If the frustration is there through sex or because of sex, sexual intercourse is missing in his life or he's not satisfied, he has to go to somebody regularly. It's not that through one instance of rape he's going to get satisfaction. Isn't it? It's just to show his power, I feel, over a woman. That, okay, he's stronger. He's got more muscle power. He's mightier than the woman. And he wants to suppress her. Basically, it's that. Okay?
I concur with you.
Yeah.
I concur with this view, ma'am. If prostitution is in India, then the position of women will be more degraded.
Look, prostitution as it is, even though it is prohibited, it is thriving. It is thriving, yes, but with a good protection. But if it is legalized, I think our society is not yet mature. It'll take some time because the Western world in some countries, they still are mature and we can say, okay, we legalize it. But here we take a little time to weigh the situation. As it is, domestic violence is not being contained. You've seen the COVID-19 pandemic period. How many women are being subjected to domestic violence? It is soared, it has gone up. It is terrible, not only here, even abroad, but India, and nobody's doing anything about it. So we go step by step. But personally, I feel time may not be right, but yes, we can move towards it. We can
in the future, there's a way.
We can move towards it. Yeah.
Very right. Can we proceed to the next question then?
Yeah.
The second question is, as you've clearly mentioned, that these crimes that take place against women are not only take place outside the workplace, but in the household as well. So to what extent do you feel that the Domestic Violence Act has been successful in achieving its objective? There have been a lot of orders, as you clearly mentioned, but how successful it is in achieving the objective for which it was formulated for the very reason?
The objective is that now, women are confident that their homes will not break and they can go in for civil remedy. Okay, and the children will be secure, and there is a possibility of reconciliation because there is a provision under the Act which talks about counseling. So the magistrate can order direct counseling of the partners jointly or singly. Even counseling of the woman or counseling of the men alone. But I personally feel that this particular provision has not been resorted to very often, and it should be. Because, if a woman is counseled alone, again, the people try to pressurize her into going back into the family, even though violence continues. Okay, because that is the mindset in our country, that don't worry, theek ho jayega, you adjust, you've got children, things like that. Again, the age-old way of pacifying the woman. But there should be a joint session of counseling where the man is confronted with violence that he's committed so that he can't get away from it. He must admit it, and he must admit the seriousness of the issue. Because unless people recognize how serious, how grave it is, they will take it very casually. Kya ho gaya? Ek thappad hi to mara hai. I can give you the example of this film Thappad.
Yes.
But but for a woman, her house, everything breaks. Okay, because she's not used to it. She had visualized a man completely different, a friend, somebody who she would confide in. That is why it becomes so hurtful for the woman. And the woman and the man has to be sensitive. The in-laws have to be sensitive. So if you take the example of this movie, you just look at the woman, even the boy's mother, she's quiet. She doesn't raise a voice against it. You understand? It's an implied acceptance. So till the society accepts, domestic violence cannot be eliminated. Everybody has to stop accepting it. Only then it will be eliminated. Otherwise, it won't. Yeah.
That's really great. Thank you for such an insight. That's really informative and touching, I'd say. That's really touching.
Yeah.
An advocate has put forth a question to you that the Domestic Violence Act defines marital home and hence recognizes right of residence. But how is the reality different from this? What do you feel? Is this provision really implemented in the present context in India? Are the women really allowed to reside in the marital home, or in reality?
In many cases given by the High Court, Supreme Court, where the orders have directed that the married women should not be moved from the house. They have to continue staying there, because basically you need to have a domestic relationship and a shared household under the Domestic Violence Act.
Right.
Okay, so where there is a domestic relationship and a shared household, and it is proved, so the woman cannot be taken out from the house. And this particular legislation is not only governing married women, it covers widows, single people, sisters, okay? All of them are covered under this. Adopted daughters, adopted sons, children below the age of 18.
You've clearly explained and very rightly explained that it is a matter of conscience and the society has to stop accepting these things. But now coming on to the punishments, the third question is, are the punishments for this gruesome crime stringent enough? And if yes, then why has there been an increase in the domestic violence cases in the recent years? What is your view on this?
Look, the idea behind having such a legislation was to preserve marriage, okay? And to give a weapon in the hands or some support to the women that they could at least raise their voices against violence which is committed against them, all right? Now, punishment is there under the Act for violating the protection order, which is maximum 1 year, or fine, which is up to 20,000 or both. Okay, and if there's a violation of the protection order, or the protection order is also not conforming to her duty or his duty, then he or she can also be subject to punishment. Increasing the punishment would mean, again, going back to the use of criminal law. Okay, so the idea is to make the women come forward, speak against violence, get the things sorted out, and make the men realize that what they are doing is wrong, because we are all human beings and it's a human rights issue. When at the international level also, we talk about right to dignity of a woman, right to development of a woman, right to shelter of a woman, right to happiness for a woman, then why not here? Men and women are all equal. And when our constitution talks about it, when we talk about Article 14, we talk about Article 15, we talk about Article 19, Article 21 of the Constitution. So why not women also have happiness in their lives? Why should they should be living under the fear of violence throughout their lives? And why has domestic violence increased in the recent years or during the pandemic, I would say, is because women are not going out of their houses. Many women were working. Some of them had respite when they left the houses. And there was a respite from the family, respite from the husband. There was a way to talk to friends. There was a way to talk to your family people and have a kind of catharsis or psychological release, which has been completely stopped now. And also Earlier, there was a way where the women could go to NCW, go to other places, NGOs, and lodge complaints. But now, because of the pandemic, everybody is confined to the houses. This was not happening. But India has taken note of it. Government has taken note of it. NCW has taken note of it. And now we have online hotlines where we can lodge complaints about domestic violence, and the husband may not know also, or the in-laws may not know also. This has not only happened in our country, it's happened across the globe, be it US, be it Germany, France, Spain, anywhere. Domestic violence cases had gone up. And in some countries, the complaints had come less in number because the victim was living with the abuser and she was scared. She was scared of lodging a complaint. And there have been cases where, especially in European countries, where the man discovered that his partner was having fever, it could be coronavirus, and she was thrown out of the house. Okay, and the child was kept inside the house and the woman was thrown out. So you understand the impact. And this Domestic Violence Act, to that extent, there was a recent public interest litigation matter, where I'll say so moto cognizance was taken by the Chief Justice of Jammu and Kashmir High Court. Okay, I can give you the citation if you want later on, where Chief Justice Geeta Mittal and Justice Prasad gave directions to the Member Secretary of the Legal Services Authority and also the government to see that online counseling is done and telephone facilities are available for women to lodge complaints against their abusers, and a way is found where she can make complaints without the perpetrator of the crime knowing that she's doing it. And to that extent, they said that please create facilities in pharmacies, in grocery stores, where women go and buy things so that complaints can be made about domestic violence. And when emergency cases are being taken up by Supreme Court or High Court, these are also urgent cases which needs to be taken up, and they come under emergency cases. And it's high time that the government also realizes it, state governments in other states of the country.
Thank you for your insights, ma'am. And again, this is more of an issue of a conscience. It's less of remedy and more of conscience, because the Indian law focuses on reconciliation. I'm really sorry. Coming to the fifth question, which is coming to the role of media. To what extent does media or movies play a role in portraying women as a weaker sex and thus becoming a victim in most situations? What is your view in this matter?
I think to a great extent, media is responsible for reinforcing the weaker aspect of women as defining as a weaker sex. Whether you see serials on television or the way she's portrayed if she's gang raped, or you look at movies, the stereotyped roles are confined to women. Okay, she has a certain kind of role, she should follow it, which has been the norm for years together. Whether you see the series on Saas Bahus or anything like that, the woman is
Balika Vadhu.
Yeah, Balika Vadhu. The woman is not going to be a participant in decision making. Unless you give power to the women, how are you going to empower her? How is she going to decide in a household or even outside? You have to give that autonomy to her, power to her. If stereotype roles are reinforced, okay, again and again, obviously then women are going to be looked at as weaker sex, subordinate, subjugated, oppressed, suppressed. That's why when we talk about the percentage of labor force of women in the market, it has declined in the recent years, not only in the rural sector, even in the urban sector. Women who are working, after some time, they stop working because the in-laws don't want them to work, or the husband says to sit at home. So this is what awareness has to be created. Sensitization has to be created. And the media, the TV serial, the social media has to change the outlook, the way they perceive women. It has to also change the mindset and not glorify any rape, not glorify act of sati, not glorify stereotyped roles. It is wrong. It is very wrong. Yeah.
Perfectly answered, ma'am. A participant has put forth a question which is quite contradictory. The question is, at times some women take undue advantages and file a false FIR regarding the domestic violence against the husband, who is actually innocent. At that case, what are the legal remedies available to a man as there are no laws or act providing specially relief to the male members of the family.
Look, bail is there, bail is available, but now there's
Yes.
been, a number of cases have been there, given by the Supreme Court of India, which says that unnecessarily you cannot rope the in-laws into any case, which is of violence against women. And the woman who is filing an FIR has to be very sure and name the person who has actually committed against violence against her, because unnecessarily bringing in-laws or sisters of the husband or brothers of the husband or children of the husband's brother, sister's brother, that's wrong. So judgments have come by the Supreme Court, which have warned that when matters come before the court, they should actually sift the cases properly and then give action or take action.
Quite evidently, ma'am, there's a need of social awakening, and a change in the attitude in the masses is really required so that due respect and equal status is given to the women of our country. So what is the role of the government in bringing about this change? And secondly, what are the steps that an individual can take in bringing about this change? Also, we would love if you give us some judicial pronouncement in this regard.
Okay, I'll let you know some case laws. See, the role of the government is huge. The responsibility of the government is huge. It has to create sensitivity right from the school days. Okay, that there is no discrimination against a boy or a girl. And a girl is as important as a boy to a parent or to parents. And even at home, that atmosphere, that environment is important. Making a girl child feel that she's as wanted as the boy is. Because if this kind of changes are brought about in the mindset of the people that let a child come in the family, be it a boy, be it a girl, it doesn't matter. And let us just, overlook the religious norms or the social norms that have been practiced for years together and make the girls do all the work which maybe the society expected boys to do, so that there is no difference, and break the stereotype. Then the change can be brought about in the society. For example, when a girl is working, she comes back after a job, her mother would still expect her to make a cup of tea, maybe for herself or for others. But when her son would return after working, she wouldn't expect the same from him. She might give a cup of tea to the son. So these are small, small differences, which if are noted by the parents, by the families, and they are remedied, and consciously the parents or the mother or the father take action that, okay, let us change it, let the son also make a cup of tea for everybody, and not only the daughter, then I think things will improve. And also there is a duty under the Constitution of India, not only under the Constitution of India, but other legislations also, which the center has brought about relating to women, and the welfare schemes which are floated for women, the policies which are floated for women, that they are properly implemented and the sensitization reaches to every part of the country. And the group should be of men and women together, not women alone. Not that women should be sensitized and men should be sensitive. Let them be together, because after all, they have to change their mindset. And once, and I think more co-ed schools should come up. I think that is important. Co-ed schools so that boys and girls grow up together and they don't feel separate in any way. And regarding another thing you had said, something else?
Judicial pronouncements, the case laws.
There have been a number of judicial cases where, the judges of the Supreme Court, even the High Courts, have empowered the women, whether it's been, the judgments have concerned the right of property of a woman, right to maintenance, right to being a guardian of a child. So the judges have played a proactive role, and they've done it under judicial activism, as we define it. Now, regarding Domestic Violence Act specifically, I will take a few cases. There was a famous case by Essa Batra versus Taruna Batra. This was decided by Supreme Court on 15 December 2006. When you talk about, I remember somebody had asked me, one of the participants, that is it true that a woman continues to stay in a matrimonial home if an order is given under the Domestic Violence Act? And I said, yes. So in this case, a woman, she said that she had made an application under the Domestic Violence Act, and she had to reside in the house where she was staying with her husband. But now what happened was that the husband left the house, and the house actually belonged to the mother of the husband. So the woman said that she has an interest in that house also. So here, the Supreme Court was very clear and said that the house belonged to the mother-in-law. So here, the daughter-in-law cannot say she has an interest. So she can stay where the husband would stay, but not where the mother-in-law would stay. So are you getting my point?
Yes.
So when she stays with her husband in a domestic relationship, in a shared household, whether it's a joint family, where the husband has an interest in, or in a nuclear family, then she can stay. Otherwise, if the house belongs exclusively to the mother-in-law and the mother-in-law wants the house to herself, that you cannot say that she should be staying in that house when her husband is not staying there. So this judgment is clear on that scope. But there have been cases where the man has been moved away from the residence, but the court has also said that this direction of moving the man away from the residence should not be very, very often applied. It should be cautiously applied, because you also have to see the life and livelihood of the man also. And you cannot be, you cannot be so cruel to the man and just ask him to leave the house. Even if the house is small, there could be other arrangements made for the woman if the woman is subject to violence. Now, regarding a
Hello?
living relationship,
Your voice is cracking.
I had not talked about it, covers live-in relationship. But the live-in relationship should be in the nature of a common law marriage, which means that the couple should behave like husband and wife.
Hello?
The couple should be viewed as husband and wife by the society and heir. In the couple, would the woman get the benefit of? One second. Hello, can you hear? Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Now it's clear.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Now you're audible. Now you're audible.
Yeah. So in a live-in relationship, they said that the live-in relationship should be like a common law marriage, and it should be in the nature of a marriage. So if it is in the nature of a marriage, that a woman who has a live-in partner and he is committing violent acts towards her or against her, she can get the benefit of act if it is in the form of a common law marriage. For example, as I said earlier, they should be viewed as husband and wife. They should be living in a domestic relationship. They should be living in a shared household. They should be of a marriageable age. The man should not have another spouse living. He should not be married when he's living with this woman. So all these requirements should be there. Only then in a live-in relationship, the woman would get protection under or against violence under the Act, and she can seek the orders under the Act. Also, her relatives can also seek protection under the Act. The same is applicable. And this particular decision was laid down in the case of D. Veluswamy's case. It's a Supreme Court decision given in the year 2010. Okay, and it's 10 SCC 469, and Justice Kaju had given the judgment, and it still holds true. And he had also drawn a distinction between a woman who would be a mistress, or I would not like to use the term keep. I find it very derogatory. A woman who is not in a live-in relationship, but is only living with a man for sexual purposes, but she would not get the benefit of the Act. She would not get the benefit of the Act because the other guidelines are not available in that situation. Now, also, I'll give you some other cases. There is another famous case decided by the Supreme Court. It's Sandhya Vankit versus Manoj Bhimrao Vankit, 2011, 3 SCC 650. Here the question was about the interpretation given to adult male under proviso to section 2Q. They said relative. Who was the relative? Will it be only a relative could only be adult? They said no, relative can also be a female. So now the respondent may not always be an adult male. It can be a female also. The Supreme Court has laid to rest this particular issue, which was in controversy across many high courts in the country. Then there's another case by the name of Ashish Dikshit versus State of UP. This is 2013 for SEC 176. In this case, the Supreme Court said that the wife cannot implicate anybody and anyone for domestic violence being committed against her. And they said that when the petition is admitted, it is important to see who are the persons who are actually being implicated and whether it's true or not. Then there is a very important judgment where the court has said that it is the duty of the courts to see that violence is actually committed against the women, okay? And not just dismiss the petition on the ground that, oh, it is a frivolous matter. So the duty vests in the court, in the magistrate, to see whether it's a matter on violence or not, okay? This duty aspect was reiterated by the courts in the case of Krishna Bhattacharjee versus Sarathi Chowdhury, 216 to SEC 705. Have you got the citation? Have you got the citation?
Yes, ma'am. I guess participants have.
There are many such judgments given by the Supreme Court and the High Courts also. I can go on and on. We'll never stop.
No issues, ma'am. If you want, we can now proceed to the questions of the participants.
Yeah.
As due to shortage of time, we'll be only taking a few questions. The first question which has been put forth regarding your statement that the online complaints have been encouraged and there has been a forum for dispute redressal in an online format. But a participant has asked that, ma'am, don't you think that these online application of complaints is not accessible to every woman? Many even don't have the knowledge about this provision. What is your say in this? Because most of the parts of India and villages and all.
Yeah, very, very, very rightly said. I endorse your opinion. I agree with you. In the rural sector, and also in remote areas, internet facilities are not available and many women are still illiterate. And even if they have, literacy to some extent, they may not be having the tools to actually make online complaints. So for this reason, that is why you have these NGOs in some remote areas and also the police, who can play an important part, in filing complaints on behalf of the women, the aggrieved victims. For example, I'll tell you a very interesting point which had happened when the lockdown was ensued in our country. As soon as the lockdown was ensued, of course, none of us were prepared and the rights of many of us were affected. Now, the state of UP, the police, especially over there, had come out with an advertisement that even though the country is under lockdown, our helpline for women who are in distress in domestic violence cases remains open. And they had actually given a telephone number and said that women who are being subjected to domestic violence are welcome to get in touch with us. So I think they really need appreciation for that, and all states should follow suit.
Very rightly stated, ma'am. The second question that a participant has asked, that, ma'am, don't you feel that when it comes to private defense, women are unable to take the plea as often they don't feel they have the physical capacity to fall within the concept of proportionate force when it comes to protecting themselves and end with a trial under the charge of murder? What is your say in this?
Murder?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Murder is something which is applicable. This would be applicable even to the man, isn't it? But yes, to the extent of, the woman being brutally murdered after violence has been committed against her, that is true. That is why I feel that crimes against women should be taken seriously by all the enforcement agencies of the country. Not only I would include the state, I would include the executive, I would include, the police, I would include the judiciary. They have to be sensitive towards crimes committed against women. That is why after the Nirbhaya gang rape case, the case was put under fast track and the decision was given less than 1 year. But even 1 year, less than 1 year is pretty long. That is why we had the incident in Hyderabad where the 4 people who had gang raped the doctor, the vet, the female vet, and finally they were killed and everybody was very happy. The society was happy about it. These things happen because the law doesn't take action. The enforcement agencies don't take action and the law takes its own course. But then again, we are bound by the rule of law. We do have the Constitution. what I would request is that all crimes committed against women should be taken seriously. And when a woman is complaining, I agree there would be misuse. There is misuse of each and every law in the country. Aren't other laws being misused? Aren't laws being misused by men? Different laws, property laws, we go to other laws. So these laws are also subject to misuse. But then it is the duty of the courts, duties of the police to see what is being misused. Because I can see, as you know, when I'm a woman, if I lodge a complaint, if I have a problem, the police would not be forthcoming the way it should. It doesn't, because sometimes maybe I'm also troubled and I've also tried it, but they don't come. So they are slow in actually recognizing that actually a crime is being committed against a person and a woman is being subjected to domestic violence. I'll share some of my work, my field work with you when I was doing my PhD on crimes against women within the family. I had gone to some of these crime against women cells. I'd gone to Nanakpura, I'd gone to other places also. And all these police personnel over there said that women come, but then we tell them to leave because we feel that, okay, mara hai husband ne, subah tak theek ho jayega. Pyar bhi to karta hai. They don't understand what is love. Love is not only sexual love. Love is something very different. It is deeper. It is respect. It is giving dignity to the woman. It is giving space to her. It is allowing her to grow, to develop, the concern for her. This is love. This should be acknowledged. If this is what love is, what they think, then obviously violence is never going to stop. Violence cannot be just, that you don't give space to the woman and you only want a physical love and that's it. That is wrong. So the attitudes of the people in the society must undergo change. And for this, each unit, each body of the government, each sector has to come in, pitch in and work in a coordinated manner so that we are all on the same page.
Very rightly explained, ma'am. It's 6 and we'll be going to entertain the last question for the day, which is there a difference between live-in relationship and companionship? And if yes, the participant would request you to differentiate it, and would domestic violence be applicable to both of them? Live-in relationship and companionship, are they different? And if yes, then how will domestic violence?
See, live-in relationship would come. What do you mean by companionship? Companionship can be in a family also. Brother and sister companionship, company. But what do you mean, a sexual companionship or a live-in relationship? You have to define it. I can have a companion and not have a sexual relationship with him, isn't it?
A companionship with a sexual relationship is a live-in relationship then. And there is
I beg your pardon?
A companionship with a sexual relationship is a live-in relationship. So there's
but you should share. There should be a shared household.
Yes.
Yeah, because I know, there are students who live together these days. Okay, but they may not come under live-in relationships. They will not come under live-in relationships. Yeah, that a line you have to draw. It has to be a shared household, shared relationship, living as husband and wife, and known as such to the society.
Thank you so much, ma'am, once again. Thank you for hosting us. And I would also like to conclude the session by saying thank you everyone for joining us in this series of webinars and making it a successful one. Team Briefcase would also like to thank all of our guest speakers who took out their precious time and provided us such insightful sessions. And with more than 400 participants, the series was a huge hit, and we are determined to organize such events in the future. We thank you all and stay tuned for our future events and follow our Instagram page. The certificates for the series will be circulated in a period of 2 weeks, and the feedback form will be shared on the WhatsApp group as well as will be shared to you via mail. All the best for your future. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, participants. You may leave the meeting now.
Thank you. Thank you, Divyansh.